I thought asking for a break would give us both the space we needed. I thought Lucas would wait for me while I figured things out. It made sense at the time our relationship was stuck in a loop, both of us just going through the motions. And I believed that stepping back would help us see things clearly. I was so sure of it. But now, standing in front of our old apartment, I realized just how wrong I was. He didn't wait. He moved on. He found someone else. The words seem so simple when I say them out loud. But in my head, they're deafening, echoing over and over. Every syllable feels heavy, loaded with regret and disbelief. How did this happen? How did I let this happen? I'm standing here, staring at the building that used to feel like home, a place where Lucas and I built our lives together. But now, it's a foreign space, like a part of my past I no longer recognize. It's hard to believe that once we laughed on that balcony, made plans for our future, and shared dreams about the life we'd have together. Now, it feels like those memories belong to someone else, some other couple from a different time. I thought asking for space would give me the time I needed to fix things. I thought Lucas would wait patiently for me, like they do in the movies. You know, the part where the couple takes time apart, and then they come back stronger than ever, grateful for the break that saved their relationship. But real life isn't like the movies. The hope that he'd wait for me was dangerous because it gave me a false sense of control. I thought I could put everything on hold, that Lucas and I had all the time in the world to work things out. But life has a cruel way of showing you just how quickly everything can slip away. Time didn't stop when I left. Lucas didn't freeze, waiting for me to come back and press play. Instead, he moved on without me. For months, I've been imagining this moment, standing here again, waiting to see him, to explain everything. I've rehearsed what I would say 1,000 times in my head, how I'd tell him that I missed him, that I was ready to come back and work things out. I thought it would feel like closure, like finally we could heal. But now that I'm here, no words seem right. What do you say when you've lost someone you thought would always be there? As I wait for the door to open, a sense of dread settles in my chest. Is this really what I want? To walk back into a life where I no longer belong? Where I'm no longer welcome? The door opens, and there he is, Lucas, the man I once thought I'd spend my life with, the man who used to be mine. But what I wasn't prepared for was the woman who appears behind him, her hand resting gently on his back. She's younger than I expected, too young. The way they stand together tells me everything. This isn't some casual fling. No, she's the someone else. The new life he's built while I was trying to figure myself out. Lucas and I met when I was 24, and he was 26. From the very beginning, it felt effortless. He was charming, confident, and funny in a way that made me forget all my worries. I still remember the first night we met. A mutual friend introduced us at a party, and we clicked immediately. By the end of the night, he suggested we leave the crowded bar and take a walk on the beach. I agreed, and before I knew it, we were driving down the coast, the wind in my hair, feeling that rush of excitement that comes with something new. We spent hours talking on that beach, the waves crashing in the background. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, like this was the start of something special. And it was. We were inseparable after that night. The early years were bliss, late-night talks, spontaneous trips, and a connection that felt unbreakable. We got married a year later, and I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. Lucas was everything I wanted: loyal, strong, and always supportive. We were building a life together, piece by piece. I had a great job, and he was excelling in his career. Everything seemed perfect. But somewhere along the way, we got too comfortable. The adventure stopped. The late-night talks faded, replaced by exhaustion from work and daily routines. Our love was still there, but it was buried beneath layers of everyday life. By the time I turned 30, I started questioning everything. Was this it? Was this what life would be like from now on? The spark that once defined our relationship seemed like a distant memory. Lucas, now 32, was busier than ever, and we barely saw each other. When we did, it felt like we were just going through the motions, two people living parallel lives under the same roof. The arguments started small, but they were signs of something deeper. I couldn't recognize the man I'd fallen in love with anymore. And worse, I couldn't recognize myself. I felt lost. That's when I thought maybe we needed space. I told Lucas I needed time to focus on myself, to figure things out. We agreed to take a break, no hard feelings, just time to clear our heads. I convinced myself it was the right choice. I told myself that we would come back stronger, that he loved me and I loved him, and we could make it through this. But as soon as I left, something felt wrong. The freedom I thought I wanted didn't feel like freedom at all. It felt like a void, like I'd cut out a piece of myself. I tried to distract myself, taking solo trips, reconnecting with old friends, throwing myself into work, but nothing filled the emptiness. Deep down, I knew the truth. I missed him. I missed us. I missed the way he used to look at me, like I was the only person that mattered. After 3 months, I finally decided to call him. My heart raced as I dialed his number, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd explain myself. But when he answered, his voice was cold, distant. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, even though my chest was tight with nerves. "I've been thinking, maybe we should talk, about us." There was a long pause. Then he sighed. "I don't know if there's much to talk about anymore, Mia." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Panic rose in my throat. "What do you mean?" "We just needed space. That's all. I'm ready to come back, to work on this." Silence. The kind that stretches on forever, filling the space with all the things left unsaid. When he finally spoke again, his voice was steady, calm. "Mia, I've met someone." I wasn't prepared for those words. I felt the ground shift beneath me, like the world had tilted on its axis. "What do you mean, you've met someone?" "I didn't plan for it," he said, his tone almost apologetic. "But we were on a break. You said you needed space. I thought we both did." I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. "Who is she?" I whispered, barely able to get the words out. "Her name is Chloe," he said, and the sound of her name, this stranger, was like a knife in my chest. In that moment, everything came crashing down. While I was out here trying to piece myself back together, Lucas had moved on, found someone new. A phantom had slipped into the cracks of our relationship, filling the spaces I had left behind. He explained, in a voice so calm it made me want to scream, how they'd met. "She works in the same building as me. We started talking, and it just happened." I didn't need him to explain further. I could see it all in my mind, how a simple chat led to another, how things slowly grew closer when no one was looking. I could imagine them having coffee, laughing at inside jokes, growing closer in the same places that used to be mine. "So, this is it?" I asked, my voice shaking. "You're just going to walk away because you found someone else?" Lucas sighed, sounding way too calm. It drove me crazy how casual he was, like this was just another thing to decide. "I'm not walking away, Mia. I'm moving forward. You're the one who asked for space." I waited, but in that time, things changed. I changed. His words hit me hard. I wanted to shout, tell him he had no right to move on. Not when we hadn't even tried to fix things. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was the one who asked for a break. I thought we had time. I never thought it would end like this. I never wanted this, I whispered, feeling my heart break with every word. I never wanted us to end. I didn't either, Lucas said, his voice now filled with regret. But sometimes things don't turn out the way we hope. The silence was crushing. It felt final, like we'd both reached the end of something that once meant everything. I was losing him. No, I had already lost him. I'm sorry, Mia, he said quietly, but it didn't change a thing. It didn't change the fact that he had someone else. Someone who wasn't me. Tears filled my eyes as I said goodbye and hung up. Just like that, it was over. The life I thought I'd come back to was gone, slipping away before I could even fight for it. I stood there, everything crashing down on me. I wasn't just grieving our relationship. I was grieving who I used to be, the girl who thought love would wait. But life doesn't wait, and neither did Lucas. Days blurred together as I stayed locked in my apartment, replaying every moment of our relationship like a broken record. Every fight, every laugh, every kiss. Where did we go wrong? I couldn't figure it out. The silence was unbearable, mocking me. I tried drowning it out with music, TV, anything to stop thinking about him. But no matter what I did, the emptiness inside me was harder to escape. It wasn't just about Lucas anymore. I started questioning everything. Was I not good enough? Did I push him away without even knowing it? My mind spiraled with doubt. Weeks passed after Lucas's confession, but it felt like time had stopped. I threw myself into work, hoping to distract myself. But he and her Chloe were always in the back of my mind. She had slipped into his life, taken what I thought was still mine. I didn't know much about Chloe, but I couldn't stop imagining them together. Were they happy? Did she know him like I did? Every day the thoughts tortured me. Then, one day, something clicked. I realized I'd been drowning in regret, stuck in the past. I couldn't change what happened, but maybe I could change the future. I needed to see Lucas. Talking over the phone wasn't enough. I had to look him in the eyes and know if there was still something between us. The day I decided to go to him, it was raining a slow, steady drizzle, matching my mood. I put on my jacket and walked to the apartment we used to share, my heart pounding. When Lucas opened the door, it was like a punch to the gut. He looked the same, but different, distant. The silence between us stretched on, awkward and heavy. Finally, I spoke. I needed to see you. I needed to talk. He didn't invite me in right away. He stood there, like he was trying to figure out why I was here. My stomach was in knots as I waited for him to say something. After what felt like forever, he stepped aside, and I walked in. The apartment looked the same, but it felt different. Colder, empty, like it no longer held any trace of me. And then I saw her Chloe. She was sitting on the couch, wearing one of Lucas's old sweatshirts, looking up at me. She wasn't what I expected. She seemed ordinary. Chloe, this is Mia, Lucas said awkwardly. Chloe gave me a polite smile, but I could see in her eyes that she knew I didn't belong anymore. I couldn't find the words to respond. I won't take much of your time, I finally said, my voice shaky. I just need to talk to Lucas. Alone. Lucas glanced at Chloe, then nodded. Chloe, can you give us a minute? She got up, still smiling, like she knew something I didn't. The moment she left, I turned to Lucas, my heart pounding. Do you still love me? Lucas's eyes widened, but he didn't answer right away. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Mia, I'll always care about you, but things are different now. I don't care about what's different, I snapped. Do you still love me? After everything, is there still something between us? He shook his head, looking pained. It's not that simple. We've both changed. But I haven't changed, I insisted, my voice rising. Not in the ways that matter. Lucas didn't respond immediately. He looked at me, his expression sorrowful, and in that moment, I realized something. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He wasn't doing this out of spite. He was just done. Done with me. Done with us. And before I could stop myself, I asked the question I had been dreading most. Are you in love with her? The silence that followed was unbearable. Lucas hesitated, as if he didn't want to say the words out loud. But then he nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm in love with her, Mia. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. The room seemed to spin, my breath catching in my throat. I had come here for the truth, but hearing it didn't soften the blow. You don't mean that, I whispered, my voice breaking. How could you love her after everything we've been through? Lucas looked at me with sadness in his eyes. I didn't plan this, Mia, but it happened, and it feels right. Tears blurred my vision, but I blinked them away, refusing to let him see how much I was breaking. So that's it? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You're just walking away from everything we built? He stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. I'm not walking away from what we had. I'll always value that. But that chapter is over. His words echoed in my mind, and the truth finally sank in. He wasn't just saying goodbye to me. He was saying goodbye to us. I had been holding on to a version of us that no longer existed, and now I had to face that reality. Without another word, I turned and walked toward the door. I hesitated for just a moment, hoping, praying that he would stop me, that he would say something, anything, to make it all go away. But he didn't. The silence that followed was deafening. When I stepped outside, the rain was still falling. It felt like the world was crying with me, sharing my pain. But the world went on, just like Lucas had. As I walked away from the apartment, the weight of it all hit me hard. The real twist wasn't that Lucas had moved on. The twist was that I had been the one holding on to something that no longer existed. And now, for the first time in a long time, I had to figure out who I was without him. As I walked away from that apartment for the last time, I knew one thing: I couldn't look back anymore.